Welcome, brilliant minds, to readmybook.net. Today, I am your host, Alice McMurtry, and I have the honor to do the creative interview with Lauren C. Snowden. Welcome, Lauren.
Thank you, Alice. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you are so welcome. I am so happy you are here. It is an honor to sit right next to you, knowing the work that you have done from your screenwriting to your being a film professor to you being a producer. And not only that, but being able to actually sit one of your presentations with a whole bunch of us other authors. It was so phenomenal, and what a great inspiration. And today we get to have you here. So thank you for giving us your time and attention.
Thank you. Thank you, Alice. It was really a joy to have presented at the Central Coast Writers Conference. And yeah, you really made me feel welcome. You really did. You came up to me. I was just really humbled, first of all, that you felt so inspired by my presentation. And then being invited to come on your podcast, I was like, wow, this is awesome. So it was really a nice gesture. So thank you.
You're welcome. And it was my honor. Okay, so our first question we have for you is tell us the moment you realized you are a creator.
Well, I don't know the moment that I realized it, but I can tell you that from a very young age, I had a huge imagination. I was sitting down with Sheila Roberts, another author that I met at the Writers Conference. I was telling her how I just had this huge imagination as a kid. I had an imaginary friend. I had an imaginary pet giraffe in the backyard. And,
Love
it
that.
was just, yeah, just so many things. And I think a lot of it came from the fact that for a long time I have an older sister, but we had the mop. My mom would always sit the mop outside, like upside down, like it looked like a little person, like a head. And
Yeah.
so I would just, that became my mop sister, and her name was Marie. We would be out there
Yes.
singing and dancing for hours, just out in the backyard. And I just think back to that. I'm just thinking my mom would wash dishes. We had the window over the kitchen, and what was my mom? I have to ask her this one time, but that was probably really nice for her to just be able to see me doing that. But when I look back at it now, it's kind of funny, but I just remember making up songs and this whole thing. And so from a very young age, I've always kind of been, I guess, creative in a way that I didn't realize, but very imaginative. And I could see things that were not there, like that
Mhm.
this mop is animated, right? And things like that. But I think the first time that I actually kind of expressed that outwardly in a way that other people could see it or hope that they would see it was in the eighth grade. I wrote a book. I guess you call it a novella these days, right? Just kind of like a young adult, ironically, a young adult novella when I was 12, 13 years old. My dad said, hey, let's try to get this thing published. And so it was really kind of, my parents have always been very supportive of my creativity. Another thing, of course, I don't know what kid didn't do this, but I would play school with my stuffed animals. My mom worked at a college. And so you too? You do? So you line them up, right? And then you get I mean, my mom would give me like the old discarded activity books, like the math books and stuff, and the English books, and I love filling them out. Oh my goodness, I would just go through and I would fill them out and I put them in front of the students, and they'd all have their little books and their pencils and everything, and we would just be playing full on school. So I think, what is it, the concept of just play and being a child and just doing that play, I feel like a lot of times that's where creativity kind of develops in the beginning. And till you ask me this question right now, I hadn't thought about that in so long, but I think that that's probably where that creativity like first started emerging.
That is so cool. And what fun memories, because it makes me think of, like, how you can give a kid this like wonderful, like magnificent gift, and then at the end of the day they open it up and find the box.
The box,
And
like,
then they
this
get
box
so
is
excited
great.
for the box. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I bet your mom was so proud in that moment to know like the simplest things became the most imaginative things. So I think
Hmm.
that's so cool that you were able to have that gift and talent. And just to let you know, when I was a kid, when we were playing school, it was my Muppet babies that were my
Nice.
students.
I love it, the Muppets. See, I had my Cabbage Patch Kid, and then as the years went on, and then at one point it was my kid sister got added to that. But I had this doll that my mom had got me. It was all cloth, but it was a little black baby, and she had kind of caramel skin, but she had little kinky hair. It was like made out of yarn, and it was stitched in, like she had a little tiny afro. And my mom, and that was my baby. I still have that baby, and I remember it started off with her, and then I just had like this whole kind of like growing. It just kind of, it grew, like when you get new students. Oh, we have a new student today. They just add them into the stack. So I love that, and I always wanted the Muppet Babies, but I didn't have any of those.
I
So
think like when I was little, they were like a Happy Meal toy, and you could get them for like $3 if you bought the Happy Meal, and that's how I think I got them.
yes, yes, yes. Those Happy Meal toys, nothing to sneeze at.
But I don't know why they were like giving the other ones out. But yes, eventually they did graduate into the neighbors' kids. And then I
Mhm.
ended up being friends with the neighbors. And then there was like these twin girls. And then I would make them come over and learn their alphabet. And then I would send them back home.
There you go. Come back with your homework ready tomorrow. I love that.
It was so funny. But that's so cool that we have that. And then I know like when you were as you were growing up, did it transpire into like with your friends instead of writing like a one sentence question, like passing notes to like pages of like, here, I'm gonna write you a 10-page story. Here, you could read it later, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I would say too, it's funny that you say that because I mean, for me, and I think I feel like we're about the same age. So, like,
Yeah, yeah,
when we had those, like, those origami letters where you'd like write a letter and then you
yes,
fold it up into a little thing, a little tag, you pull it out. And I
yeah.
still have a whole bunch of them. Now, one, I wish at this point that I never threw any of them away, but at some point I was like, oh my gosh, I have to get rid of things. And I'm super nostalgic, so I hold on to everything. But it's funny to go back. I saved, I was like, okay, whatever I can fit in this shoebox, that's what I'm gonna keep, right? So I went through and I curated like the ones that had really something substantial to say, because a lot of them would be like, hey, what are you doing? And if you send it to the next person, like nothing really, hey, TTYL or whatever they say, right? And so I
Yeah.
have those, yeah, those things. But I remember it's like at one point I was thinking, I want to go back and just read those letters or like try to see if I could fold that origami back, that kind of thing. When I got to high school, I remember still writing the letters, but I remember on one of our volleyball trips, we were going somewhere and I had written a short story for one of my classes. And one of my friends, Carrie, I'll never forget her name. Her name was Carrie Adams, and we're still friends to this day. But I remember I let her read the story. I don't remember why she asked me to read it, and I thought, first of all, I was like, oh my gosh, you want to read my story? Okay. So I let her read it, and we got to the gym, and she said, Lauren, did you have what happened to your pet giraffe? Did you get to keep it? And I said, wow, I convinced her that I had a pet giraffe. Like, I was like, that's so amazing. And even with that, I have not been to this day able to find the original handwritten copy of that short story. It's
Aw.
somewhere between me and my mom, somewhere, it'll probably in a box somewhere, but I will never forget Carrie asking me that. She goes, so did you get to keep the giraffe? I said, oh, well, that was pretend. She's like, oh my gosh, that was so believable. And so I just thought, wow. So that was when I started thinking, wow, so I can write things that people are affected by, It was affirming for sure.
That's so cool. And it's so cool that you guys are still friends today. Does
Mhm.
she help you stay inspired, especially with those hard moments of like making sure you keep typing and picking up the pen and stuff like that? Like,
It's funny. It's like I haven't we have a lot of my friends from when we were younger. We're still very dear friends. We stay in touch on social
yeah,
media, but then also we email, and when we go home for the holidays, we try to get together. But we were kind of talking about this a little bit before we got on, but when people's lives take different paths, right? And so, she's got
yeah,
a family and she's got like a beautiful, beautiful kids. They're all grown up. They're going to college and they're just great athletes like we were and that kind of thing. And so she lived far away. So at one point she moved to Australia. But even through all of that, we
yeah.
still managed to stay in touch. I'm really close with her parents. And so even though we don't talk every day, we still have that relationship that's like, oh, I thought about you when this thing happened, or look, this is what's going on with Bailey, or whatever it might be. And so, to your point about keeping me inspired, every time we talk, it's like, what are you working on now? I can't wait to read it, or I can't wait to see it. You know what I mean? So, in a way, even though I don't directly say, hey, I need that little boost. It's like just knowing that when I get to that place and something's ready, knowing that that's somebody that I can go to. And I have a lot of friends like that that just waiting, they're just rooting for me. We can't wait till the next thing comes out. And they're always just right there. She subscribes to my blog. I have a blog. She reads my blog every time. She'll put comments on it. Like, it's just really, that's a treasure to have friends like that. So, yeah, so in a way, she does keep me inspired every day. Girlfriends, and I have cousins too that they just have so much faith in me, you know what I mean? And sometimes I have to lean into that because sometimes you have those moments where what am I even doing? And maybe I should just be a teacher and forget about the creative stuff. You
Wow.
have them saying, no, like, you have something, you need to continue with that. And we want to see it and we want to read it and we want to watch it. Kind of one of those things where those seeds were planted early and now those relationships have rooted in my heart and I will never be without them. So I'm grateful for that.
I feel the same way. I could not have done all the stuff that I'm doing if it wasn't for the tribe of people that are supporting me. And I love it because they keep me accountable. Like when they notice that I'm not keeping up with the blog or, hey, did you post anything recently? When's your last post? And I'm like, oh, you're right. I need to go do that. Let me go do that real quick. So it makes
Yes.
me excited when they're excited, you know? And that's so
Absolutely.
awesome that you guys keep that the years of friendship. I think that's so cool that you do that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank
so
you.
for your next question, would you like to describe your creative process? So, what is it like going through your writing and creating?
Oh boy.
Are you
Dang.
a pantser? Are
Oh
you a
gosh. Oh
planner?
yeah. I think I used to for sure be a pantser. For
Okay.
sure. When I first started out, it's like I just see him, and I write mostly screenplays, and I'm working
Yeah.
on a couple books right now. But even the first book, that first one I wrote, that was just out of my imagination, me just seeing these characters and just writing it down. When I got to high school, I started writing screenplays, and yeah, it's like I can literally see the movie in my head, right? And I just write down what I'm seeing. So I would do that. I would stay up for hours. I mean, and I was at my gym this morning with my personal trainer talking about that, the like your circadian rhythm, right? And like, when your
Yes.
body naturally is more productive. Mine is at night. And as much as I try to be a morning person, if I could just wake up at 5:30, even 6 o'clock, I could get an hour in, but it takes me a minute to wake up, right? I don't wake up like, whoop, let's go. So that's one thing for me that doesn't work is writing in the morning, but I teach. So it's like I have to get that time in evening, but also trying to figure out that balance. And I think in the last the last 13 years I've been teaching college, but the last 7 years I've been running the film studies program at my college. And it's kind of it's a different beast. There's like lots of different responsibilities and things to do in addition to the classes I teach. So right now my process looks like, where can I get that pocket of time? I've been working on being more stringent with a time budget and saying like, on these days I'm going to do this, right? And I'm still
Yeah.
working it out. I'm still kind of like working through that process. So logistically, that's where I'm at, that process of trying to figure out logistics. When I'm writing, I would say I went from being a pantser to being, I would say, a plancer, because for projects that I get contracted to write, there's definite structure, like Hallmark, you write from, they have a
Yeah.
9 act structure that you write with. With them, it's like, okay, I have to deliver in that structure. So it does make you have to think ahead, because they want to see, okay, so where's it going to go? You turn that in, then it's like, okay, yeah, great. So to that point, and other projects I've done that I had to kind of have a structure laid out, like an outline, act one, two, three. These are the turning points. These are the act breaks, kind of thing. And so when you do that, at least when I do that, it's kind of, it doesn't just, I don't just throw it out mentally, right? So I think some of that residue has seeped into my plotting or into my pantsing. And so now it's kind of like I do like a combination of the two. I might do like a light outline, and then kind of
Okay.
like still keep the flexibility to go in whatever direction, right? So I have but again, still I see these things like movies in my head. And so when I pitch them to people, like the book I'm working on right now, we went up to my cousins, and I was telling her about the story. I pitched it to her beginning, middle, and end. She goes, "Where can I buy it?" I said, "It's in my mind right now." She's, "That's in your mind? Wow." And she's like, "I thought it was already." And so that's just a thing that I think, that imagination, cultivating that vivid imagination when I was a kid, it's definitely, I can see full on. And I even dream that way. I dream full movies sometimes. It's just, I think that's probably the bit of a gift that I was kind of born with. So yeah, so I think that generally my natural instinct is to just pants, right? But I think that there's definitely a value in having some bit of a, even if it's a loose structure, so I do kind of lean
Yeah.
into that a little bit.
I love that you said that because I'm like, I'm totally with you. And you're the first person that has told me that you dream like in movies because everyone else is like, when I tell them my dreams and they're like, how did you dream all that? And they're like, is it in color? And I'm like, yes. It's like I literally was right there. So you're like my only other person that has like full vivid dreams. So
Yeah,
thank you
well, and
for sharing
the
that.
thing about the black and white, I've heard that before. Like, do you dream in black and white or in color? I'm like, who dreams in black and white? Like, life's not in
That's,
black and white.
yeah.
But I guess that's really a concept. I don't think I've ever had a dream in black and white ever.
Same here. I thought that's exactly how dreams work, like
Yeah.
you're real in real life. And I
Hmm.
love how you're saying that the planner and a pantser at the same time. So I started off the same way. Like I love just scripting out the story, and then I'm realizing with my book right now, I'm like, maybe I should go back and plan things out. So I'm going to backwards map it.
Hmm.
So we'll see how that goes. I'm working on that part right now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I've done that too. And I think I have to be very gracious with myself and say, like, okay,
Yeah.
this is to give me an idea of where we're gonna go. But I kind of think of it like you're going to, I don't know, you're planning a trip to Arizona.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, where we're gonna go, we're gonna end up in Phoenix. We might take some other routes to get there, or maybe, we were gonna go to Phoenix, but then we got this really amazing opportunity to go to like Sedona. So we did, and we ended up in Sedona, but it was even better, right? So like
Right.
sometimes with like planning things out, sometimes I think it's gonna go here, but the characters are like, that's not where we're going, and then they go somewhere else, you know. And then it ends up being better than what I had originally imagined. So I feel like the thing when if we are doing the plotting bit, right, it's like at least keep the option open to change directions, right? Because sometimes I
Right.
think that that can be like an inhibitor to the creativity if you know are like so stringent about nope, it has to go here, 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 and then you're kind of forcing the story to go away it may not want to go. And so sometimes, you know, like just kind of like opening up to that creativity and just like letting it flow naturally it'll bring some beautiful surprises.
I love that. And that's such a great like inspirational fact too of sometimes it's hard to like let loose too and just like let the story take itself. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us today.
Sure.
Okay, let's do one more and then we'll take a little break, okay?
Mm-hmm.
If you'd like to go, if you need a drink of water or anything like that. If you don't, then we can keep going. Okay, so the next one is the why. What is the most important thing of your work that matters the most?
The why. I
Yeah.
think my why, and not I think, my I know, my why kind of ties back into the thing that kind of connected you and me, right? This
Yeah.
art in us, right? This is kind of become
Yes.
like a not a manifesto, might be the wrong word, but you know, it's kind of like I feel that I feel like my purpose and I kind of see this over and over again is kind of to be a springboard for other people, right? And I used to think of that as kind of like a I don't think I've ever seen it as a negative thing. Like I've always known that I I thrive in seeing other people succeed and helping other people to reach their best and to find their strengths, right? And when in 1998 when I was in film school, I went to film school and that when the Golden Globes happened and Ving Rhames got the Golden Globe for his role Only in America for playing Don King. And he gave the award to Jack Lemmon. He called him up and he quoted Konstantin Stanislavski, who says, love the art in yourself, not yourself in the art.
Mm.
And when he said that, I was like, that is so powerful. I literally that night was like, that's me. Like that's what I want to do. I want to know how to one, cultivate the gifts that I have been given, my God-given gifts. And how do I use those gifts to bless other people? And then how do I help other people find their gifts and cultivate those gifts in them? And so that's become my mission. And it's super ironic because when I went to film school, my whole goal was I want to be a movie maker. I want to write movies. I want to write TV shows. I want to, you know, and while in the back of my mind, I've always had this thing about like, you know, helping other people reach their best. I didn't really connect that I would end up teaching college, right? At some point, I figured I would, you know, be able to give back after I had this really huge career, right? And then I would come back and teach, donate my time. And when I graduated from film school, they wanted me to go right back and teach at Cal State Northridge, and it was so awesome. I had the best professors. They were so supportive, and they just opened up so many doors for me. And but they wanted me to go to grad school, come back and teach, and I thought well, you know, I want to actually live the life a bit, right? And actually be working.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what's going to qualify me is if I actually do the work and then I come back and teach, right? So the way
Right.
that things kind of evolved is that I ended up being able to do both of those things at the same time. And I was working in the industry and I was teaching and I was able to impart that knowledge that I was getting in my real world experience to my students and then get them excited about their passion and get them excited about going out and creating and finding their voice and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of been one of those things that over the last 25 years has kind of just solidified even more what my role is. Because even when every project I work on, I'm directing a project and I put a team together and then we do some really great work and then they all go off and do amazing things, right? And then some I could look at this two ways, like, oh, they're all doing great things and I'm just still over here teaching, or they're doing great things and I'm also right doing different great things, right? And so I'm
Right.
planting seeds where my seeds need to be planted. And so rather than seeing my teaching part is, oh, this is keeping me from doing the work that I really need to be doing. This is the work that purpose comes from in here, and the context doesn't really matter. So my purpose is to help people to cultivate the gifts that they are given. And whether that's in a classroom or it's on a film set or it's on one-on-one coaching with someone with their own project and helping them to work through those kinks or whatever it might be, whatever it is, like that, my purpose doesn't change, right? Just because I go to another place. So to that point, that's been a really kind of valuable lesson that I've continued to just kind of reinforce and remind myself. And every time I meet people like you who, and now I'm teaching at conferences and stuff, and I see people who are so affected by what I spoke about, it reminds me that that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, and I love that you asked that question because this is really a pretty recent revelation, which is super ironic considering that's what I've been wanting to do the whole time. It's like, oh, I actually am doing it. Okay. And my dad had pointed out to me, he's like, you're doing it. You said you wanted to be working,
Yes.
doing the work and teaching at the same time. And you're doing that. And it was hard for me to see it, but I see it now. And so it's a blessing to be able to do that. So that's what my why is. That's what my why is.
Love that. That's so beautiful and empowering. Like, that is so awesome that you were able to divide because so many people can only focus on one thing. And it's so cool that you, as you were moving along, and that you were able to actually cultivate a whole nother, community of students along with you and take them along the journey and show them that what you're doing is a real thing. It's so interesting to me, like, how many students and kids that I come across where they're like, like it's a real thing. And I'm like, yeah, it's a real thing. Like, it was so cool. We had an author come in at school and with the autograph books sometimes that I get like sent to my house. It wasn't until those moments where people are like, this is a real thing. And I'm like, yes, you're allowed to have a career that could be fun. And it's
Mm-hmm.
so cool when you have a leader who's living the dream.
Yeah,
That is so cool. And
absolutely.
remarkable. Very
Thank
cool.
you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, just to add on to that though too, it's like, and this for the people in the back that might be, I'm in physics and I like it. Absolutely. Because you know what? Fun for me and fun for somebody else, not necessarily the same fun. So so that's one thing I also try to say is like art, like everything else is subjective.
Yes.
Like our purpose is subjective and very personal, right? So like for me, I skipped going to, I don't even know if I told you this or not, but I was gonna go to medical school. Like that was my whole high school. I was like, oh, I'm gonna go to medical school. I'm gonna be an orthopedic surgeon. Like I took all the science classes. I did all the stuff. I mean, I used to ace, physiology and anatomy. I had like 114%. Then all of a sudden it turns out you have to work on cadavers when you, of course you do. Why didn't I think of that? I don't do well with cadavers, dead bodies, that kind of. And I'm thinking, I'm gonna have to do that for my job. I don't think that's gonna. And honestly, the fact that that was my deal breaker tells you that that's not what my purpose actually was. I love the body and I love those things, but that's not the place that I need to be spending my energy. That's not my purpose. So, but people who go to medical school and love to work on cadavers and oh wow, look at the larynx. And I'm like, I don't, that body's not moving. This is a problem for me. Right. So
Yeah.
to that point, everybody's fun is different, right? So it's like, yeah,
Right.
we're talking about the creative arts and all that stuff. This is all great, but some people look at our profession and go, oh my God, how could you ever? I could never do that, right? So
That's true.
so I think it's definitely keep that as give it a wide berth because there's so many, fun looks different to everybody. And whatever your fun is, the whole point is that for you to everybody to be able to find their place in whatever it is, right? To
Right. That's right. And
cultivate.
they're fun. Yeah.
Hmm.
I
Exactly.
think, yeah, and that's a very valid point. Very valid point. And it's so funny because, as we work with our students and stuff too, and our personal kids, we want to see them thriving in the real world. And it was funny because a couple of kids, I was like, would you like to be a teacher? And like, so we talked about jobs as teaching, and they were like, oh no, I do not want to do what you do. They're like,
Hmm.
you're great at it, but no, thank you. And I'm like, okay, thank you.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
they say it takes a special calling to be a teacher, and I think that that's
yeah.
true. And even within teaching, some people are like, "Oh, I would never teach elementary, or I could never teach high school. I could only." And it's again, everything has that same
But
hierarchy of desirability. Everything is so subjective. So that's really funny. Yeah.
it is funny that you say that too. Okay, let's do one more, and then if you need a break, we could take a break. Okay. All right. So, how has your voice or style evolved over time? And what have you learned or
Oh,
unlearned?
okay, so how's my style and voice evolved? I feel like my style evolves kind of, actually my voice too. I feel like style and voice evolve with experience, at least for me, right? So the older that I get and I experience different things, my stories change. And I think through in every story, even if it's something that is complete, like it could be science fiction, right? I don't write sci-fi, but I wrote a murder mystery, right? A murder mystery
Yeah.
for Hallmark. I had never been through a situation like that, you know. I'm not career that the protagonist embodies, not a career that I've ever pursued, but the murder that happens, nothing I've ever encountered. But I find that my experiences work their way into the story in the way that is organic for that context, right? So friendship at the bottom of the at the end of the at the end of the day, it's about friendship. So I know I have lots of friendships, right? So I have that experience. I write that into my stories, and so I feel like as far as style and voice goes, as I experience different things, different milestones, and different tragedies, and different losses, and different victories, that those inform the way that I write, and I write from that place. So I think that it's not I think, I'm positive that it's never going to stop evolving because every day brings something new. So to that point, I feel like that the role that I have is to mine those moments that are significant and that have that value. And honestly, we can find that even in the mundane places, you know, because sometimes it's in the quiet places where we get the most revelation. So I think that as I continue to live life, and prayerfully we continue to be able to do this, right, to experience things every day and take the beauty from, and sometimes it's beauty from the ashes, right? How can I make
Oh,
something beautiful out of this, you know? So I think that style and voice for me, I mean, it's just every project is different, and I feel like I learn in a different way. I grow with every project. I was just talking to a dear friend of mine named Misha Siegel, and asked a kind of a different question, but I think it has a parallel validity. I asked him, "Do you have a favorite movie you've worked on?" He's a composer. He's a film composer. Well, he's a composer. He has a trio that he plays with. I mean, he's done all kinds of albums, composed for the Philharmonic, all kinds of stuff. But I asked him the question, and he said, well, he's like, I have to say no. He's like, there's some that have kind of stayed with me in a different way, but he said, I can't say I have a favorite because every single project brings something new, right? And he goes, and he said that every time that I get on a new project, the relationship I have with the director versus the relationship I have with the film itself, and my process for that film and coming up with the music for that film, every time it's different, right? And so it's kind of like
right.
every project brings an evolution of its own, you know. So I think that that's kind of pretty profound to think about. And I thought it was such a great response because it's true. Like I could say the same thing. Like if I try to think about, oh, I have my short psychological thriller that I did, Prodigal. It was great, but then the reason was great, my TV pilot. But I love them both for different reasons, completely different genres, different teams that worked on them, but each project that I do has its own kind of gems. And so I feel like it's the same thing with style and voice. It's like every project that we work on, and I'm sure you can attest to this the same way, right? Writing poetry, it's like every project is going to have its own kind of set of challenges and victories, and all those things end up being the evolution for me as a creative person, you know. How do you feel that works with you?
Resonated 100% with me. Exactly how you said it. It was interesting with my book because there's one poem in there I wrote about the apologetic soul. And some people always think it's like stuff you go through. And yeah, some of the stuff that I went through did inspire for me to write. And they're always trying to get like, what exactly inspired you to write that? But it was really interesting for the apologetic soul because it meant so many different things to so many different people. And then I started to get question of what did you go through to make you write that and make it healing. And I thought that was really awesome that I was able to help heal, like help in that healing part. Like I didn't do it, but just planted a seed, you know?
Sure, absolutely. And I think that along those lines too, it's like you have these different tools. So like you talking about style and voice, and I feel like honestly, depending on what project or story you're writing, you're going to use different tools out of your tool chest, right? So like as
Right.
creatives, like we have these different tools. I love Misha, we were talking about that too. But it's like you have these different tools and then you put them in your toolbox. You don't go, okay, I learned about that. I'm never going to need it. I'm going to throw it away. You store it away and you never know when it's going to come up, you know? And so to your point,
Right.
like you wrote this poem, Apologetic Soul, and you didn't expect that it was going to touch people the way it did, but because art being subjective
Right.
as it is, people decode what they are going to. We talk about this in film studies. There's coding and decoding. So coding is what the writer intended, right? Whatever they wrote when they wrote the story, they had a particular intention in mind. But when they you have no control over how an audience is going to decode that, right? And a lot of times people will read things into it that weren't even there. Sometimes it's on a subconscious thing that's pretty fascinating. When I was in film school, my first little short film that I did was called Word is Born, and it was just like a little cute little 5 minute film about this girl who likes the guy, and she's kind of shy and she doesn't want to speak up, and so she sees the guy talking to her friend and she thinks that her friend is going for the guy that she wants. And so she's kind of like upset about it. And she's a tomboy, you know, because I was a tomboy. This came from my
Yeah.
kind of experience. It wasn't a real story that happened to me, but the character was kind of like based on me as a tomboy. And so she's just like, oh, well, I obviously can't be good enough for this guy. So she goes home and she's kind of
Mhm.
pouting and she kind of like rolls over on her bed and she has her basketball there. She's just kind of like playing with her basketball. She rolls over and kind of cuddles her basketball. Well, my friend Chris Ackerman, who he's like my first mentor. He's a great guy. He's a year ahead of me in school, but he's just a great filmmaker and producer. He produced my film. And so it was funny because when he was looking at the first cut, he goes, "Oh, I like that how she kind of like her boyfriend's gonna be the basketball. Like that's like what she's settling into, that that's gonna be for her." And I said, yeah, I guess I was saying that in a way, right? Subconsciously,
Yeah.
that's what I was saying, even though in that moment it was just like she's being kind of sad, right? But the
Yeah.
imagery of that automatically, it was like, oh, obviously that's what I was saying. I didn't necessarily code that intentionally on the page, but that's what the connotation was, you know? And so I thought that was really cool. So that was a really good example of this idea of coding and decoding, where it's like other people are going to read into the symbolism of something, whether or not you even were consciously aware of what you were kind of putting in there. So to your point about the poem that you wrote, you had a particular meaning in mind when you wrote it, but other people bring their experience, and it's like we always come from our own referential understanding of something, and so we bring that into whatever it is that we're reading and we read it with that lens on. So if my filter is abuse, if my filter is neglect or whatever it is, I'm going to see that automatically, even if it's only subconsciously in what I'm reading. So I love that you did a follow-up piece to that and then kind of revisited that for people and kind of to see how that kind of would hit them too. But I think, yeah, it's art. That's what's so beautiful about art to me.
Yeah, it was beautiful because I felt like, man, for people to share something so deep and private and feeling comfortable enough to share that with me, I felt so honored that they were even comfortable to share that. And I was like, that was really cool, you know? I
Yeah,
think,
absolutely.
I want to go back and ask you some more questions about your creative process, okay?
Hmm.
So when you were talking about it, you were talking about it's like exactly to the T of your writing. But I want to add another question on that layer, okay? But what about rituals? Do you have any like, and it doesn't have to be like a ritual, but you know, like how baseball players will tap their bat and blow or whatever their little like magic
Yeah.
piece is. Do you have like any little whimsical little things that you do to help you set up for your writing session?
You know, I don't think I have anything that I go to all the time, at least that I could think of off the top of my head. I feel like now one thing I do is I tend to write to soundtracks, film soundtracks.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's one thing I do. I do kind of like I'll either write to a film soundtrack, but I also make playlists. So depending on what I'm writing, I'll make a playlist
Okay.
for it and kind of songs that make me think about that. Like thematically, it could be tone, it could be the lyrics, whatever, right? That make me think about that story that I'm writing, and then I kind of to just bring me into it. if I'm writing, like I remember when I was writing the murder mystery that I did, I actually listened to the Columbo soundtracks from all the different films and TV episodes that I could find. I had all the different, weren't all available, but whatever they did, I made a playlist that was all Columbo. And then I just had that in mind. I just was like, channel Columbo. Not that you channel, but just like I'm gonna just lean into Columbo. And I did that and it was very helpful. I just was like in that mode. There's certain soundtracks that I love to write to. I love writing to Thomas Newman's music. I love writing to the soundtrack for Lars and the Real Girl is another one that I really love. And so kind of like depending on the genre that I'm working in or kind of what's going on in the story, I'll pick soundtracks that kind of like lean into that. Um, and let me see who else. Yeah, just I have a whole, and then I have a whole kind of like writing playlist. I have different playlists for different kind of moods. So it might be one particular soundtrack in like in the case of Columbo or whatever, or it could be like, this is going to be for this type of book, right? And then sometimes I'll do lyrical, music too, depending. But yeah, I like to make out lists. And another thing that I did to uh kind of get me in the mood for the book that I'm working on now is I actually, and I think I can show you this, and I said I think I'm going to do this from now on. So one thing is Neil Gaiman,
I
uh
love him.
man, it's funny because I have yet to read any of his books, but I got obsessed with watching his interviews and him talking about his writing process.
Okay, we're on the same page with that because my friends are obsessed with his writing, but they sent me the interview to go watch him, and I could listen to him talk about pens and notebooks
Mm-hmm.
forever.
Yes.
I'm like, that man
Yes.
can talk
Yes,
and
he can.
write.
And
Yeah.
to your point, he talks about this Leuchtturm notebook, and this is the extra long sheet. It's like I want to say it's like 13, it's something. But anyway, and then he uses these fountain pens. And it's funny
Yes.
because the reason why I think I resonated with him so much is because when I wrote my first book, actually, I wrote the book when I was in the eighth grade. But when I was in high school, I wrote a novel, and I still have it in here. It's all handwritten. It's in spiral notebook. I wrote the entire book in spiral notebooks and by hand, and I'm so tactile. I love that. I think that's one thing that I really resonated with him. And so he says like you write your first draft, or he writes his first draft by hand, and then when you type it out, you're already in revision mode. You're already editing because you're going to already be kind of like, oh no, maybe that was a little wonky, and you'll be making the changes as you go. So you're already in your second draft by that time. So my book I'm working on in here. But one thing that I did on this one that I said I'm going to start doing is making kind of like mock covers for the book. So this is the working title. It's not the real title, but I started making mock covers of the book, kind of like some characters. And so what happened was this is a little photo printer. There's an author I follow named Abby Emmons. I like her. She's I've been
Oh, I
following.
follow her too. How do
She
you
was
not follow
she was
her?
yeah. See,
Yes.
we're like this. We're right here.
Yes.
I want to say she must have started making these things. She was like maybe 15 or so, maybe 14,
And I
15.
did
I've
the
been
same
following
thing
her.
with the printer too, the little,
Yeah, yeah. And I got
yes.
this idea from her. So I got a little photo printer. She uses it. She said she was using hers to like do her book review. So like she would print a little picture of the book and put in her journal. So she started doing that instead of putting it up on book. What's that book? Goodreads. She had a
Yeah,
Goodreads
Goodreads.
account,
Yeah.
and then she goes, "I don't want to be on Goodreads anymore. I want to do it for myself." So she got a journal and she started putting them in there. So she would use a photo printer, and I got the one that she had, and so I thought, well, maybe I could just use this and start making my own, visualizing my book, because a lot of authors, she's her and a couple other ones, but they'll like, kind of like make mock kind of like even lookbooks for their whole book.
So I don't know if you can see. Let me see if I can show you. Okay, yeah, there you go. But like the picture of the sunset, that's my mock one. I haven't
Yep.
gone to do my own visual yet. And these are some of my photos, but not the ones that that one's not my photo. But like the bee is my photo. So, but it's not what I want for the book, but they're like my mock-ups of like my
Mm-hmm.
covers. So
Yeah.
yeah, so I do that too. Like, but
Yeah.
it's funny because I got those same journals too from there. Not, I'm gonna go get the one that you have, but I bought the 8 by 8 or
Mm-hmm.
12 by 12. It was like a square one.
Oh, uh-huh.
And I ended up giving it to my oldest child for an art book, and my kid loves the book. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, but the paper's so thick and it
Yes.
feels
It
so
doesn't bleed.
nice.
Yeah,
It
it
doesn't
doesn't no bleed
bleed.
through. Yeah.
So you're right. I like that you're saying that because I'm like, oh, that would help me so much for each one of these books. When I have an idea that I can just, and I love to actually have the tactile of the book.
Yes, me
So
too. Yeah, me too. It's like I feel like it's coming right out of my hand, like it's coming right from my brain, right
mhm.
out of and right onto the page, you know. And I
Yeah.
think it's such a intimate process to writing it out, right? You know, writing it by hand. And I have the worst. Right? It's so funny because my mom's like, "You have the right penmanship to be a doctor." Like my writing is like I have to really draw my letters. So it's funny because I have a friend who's like, "Oh, I love doing transcription. I would love to type your book up for you." I was like, "I don't think you can read it, honestly." She was, "Well, let me see." So she took it. She's like, "Yeah, I wasn't able to really read enough." I was like, "Yeah, I think it's gonna be easier if I just do it myself because my writing." And when I was in high school, same. I can totally read it, but for other people, it might be a challenge. So, but yeah, I still love that process, even though it's a messy process, but it's mine, you know. There's no interference from anything. It's just me and the paper. So yeah, so I guess I do have rituals after all that. I mean, I guess I can't really say it's a ritual because this is the first book that I did it on, but I do know that moving forward, I will be continuing to do the mock-up little book covers and just like an avatar of the characters and things like that. Because to be honest with you too, not to get on this tangent, but the whole AI thing has still been something I feel like as a teacher I've been pretty resistant to all of it because I don't like the way that people misuse it in
Mhm.
that setting. I'll just leave it at that. But I do think like
Yes, I
just like
agree with you.
yeah, just with anything else, though, it's a tool. And if you use it again, if you use it as a tool and not as a crutch
Yeah.
or as instead of, right, then you
Mhm.
can definitely get some good stuff out of it. So I thought, oh, for me to come up with little avatars for my book, and this is just stuff that's for me, just to help my creative process. So I gave it a
Mhm.
shot. That was my effort in giving it a shot and saying, I'm going to see if there's something I can do with this that will be fruitful and productive that I can use for my process. And so I see that as being a viable use for it, you know.
Yeah. No, I think that's super awesome that you do that. And what a great idea. And I am going to pirate that from you because let me show you. Here's what I've done so far is I usually use those little spiral notebooks that you were
Mm-hmm.
talking about.
I
And
love it.
then here is, so I ended up typing it up and then I went through it again and again,
I
and I'm
love
going
that.
through it again. So
Yes.
now I just got to take this and I have more ideas for it. And that's why I'm like, I need an outline so I don't forget everything I want to put
Mm-hmm.
in there.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm so excited. It's getting heavy. But I'm like, but I do
That's
have it in large print so I can write in spaces,
yes.
so I can write in between there and put notes and commentary
Mm-hmm.
and stuff.
I
So, but you're
love
right.
that.
Like now that you're saying that, I'm technically on my third draft. I'll be on my third draft of
Mm-hmm.
this book by the time that after I do my outlining and write it again. So, thank you. That was really
Yeah.
cool. So, I'm
Yeah.
going to steal that hack.
Oh, please.
Yeah.
Yeah. Steal away. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
know for myself for rituals, like in summertime, I'll use like incense,
Mm-hmm.
and in the wintertime, I'll burn some candles. I always love to clean my desk with like this homemade sanitizer just because of the essential oils and just I always feel like the scents are so sensual. So I feel like
Mm-hmm.
that helps me like channel into like I'm here in the present and I get to enjoy this moment. So
Yes, I
those are kind
love
of my
that.
little rituals, but
I love that. Yeah,
yeah.
I could see pairing your incense and your essential oils with
Yeah.
my music. Like I could see
Yes.
that working really well for me. Like I have the music piece and then having that sensory of the smell and kind of bringing it all in. I could totally see that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to
And it's
take that hack from you.
yes, we're gonna be like changing it up here. You might
Yeah.
not see us for a week, but or two.
I know.
And snacks. My brother, he always would make sure whenever I was doing homework that I had a little snack. And my mom
Oh,
would come in there too, but it would always be my brother would be like, "Do you have your snacks?" And I'm like, my
oh,
brother's like 10 years older than I am,
I
so he
love
would
your
always
brother so much already, and I haven't even met him.
it was so cute because that's something that still sticks with me today. Like, oh, if I'm writing, I gotta go have my
I
snacks.
love that. He's taking care of his sister. No, that's great. I'm a big snacker too, I will say. And I'm not going to say that that's a ritual, but it's a habit. I feel like it's more of a
Yeah.
habit because like
Yeah,
I'll get
maybe that's what it
tired or
is too.
you know, I no, maybe for you a ritual is good.
Yeah.
For me it's a habit and I know because it's like a thing that I do like if I'm even teaching when I'm grading and I get tired and I know I have to push through, I start snacking and it's like
Yeah.
no bueno because it's the middle of the night and it's like oh my gosh like I shouldn't be snacking right now you know so I need to be more like I'm gonna just focus on drinking more tea. I also do like to have tea when I'm writing.
Get the cheese, get the nuts, get the little
Yes.
salamis. So
Yes,
fun.
yes, oh yes, so much snacking. But I also tend to go to like now my thing now is I love blue gummy sharks, and so I could just eat those like, and it's just
They are good. They're
they're so good
dangerously
and
good.
not good for you, you know.
Yeah,
Anything in
dangerously good.
anything in moderation is fine, but like the way that I go, it's like, come on now, I'm like falling asleep and I'm still eating gummy sharks. Like, just go to sleep, you know. Ay, ay,
Maybe
ay.
that's your next book, is writing about the gummy sharks.
Maybe I could write it into a character. Maybe a character is the
Oh,
best
there
way
you
to
go. That
describe.
would be fun too.
There you go.
Honestly, when I'm looking back at my characters right now, one of my outlines is to etch out my characters. What's their favorite snacks? What's their favorite movie? What's their favorite scent? What's
Yeah.
their favorite color?
Yeah. I mean,
So there you go.
yeah.
Now you have a character. Okay, for our next question, for your inspiration, who or what inspires you, especially when you feel stuck on things?
Hmm. That's a good question. I feel like I take my inspiration from wherever I can get it, to be honest with you. I feel like I take my inspiration from wherever I can. I also have learned one of the things is that I can't depend on inspiration to get me where I need to be. Like I have to deadlines. I work better with deadlines. Actually, I will tell you, I will say that deadlines inspire me. I will say
Yeah.
that a deadline will inspire. I will get work done if I have a deadline. You know, it's funny because now that I teach college, I kind of make my own schedule and I have, it's funny. I thought I was building my schedule in a way that's going to help me be more creative. Like, oh, I have Mondays and Fridays. I don't teach in person. I can just teach in person on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Monday, Fridays, online classes, and I can write. Well, I realizing now that I do better when I have more things going on. So the busier I am, the more productive I am because I know that I only have this much time to get it done. And so I wish that it weren't that way, but I think because I have so many different obligations and responsibilities that it's really too easy for me to go into, oh my gosh, I just need to veg out for a little bit, right? Or, oh, I just need to just take a rest. And I do need to take a rest, but I need to not rest like make it a permanent, like just I'm just gonna keep resting all week.
So very cool. And thank you again so much for spending this afternoon with us. We really appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
And don't forget, so we can send you your goodies too.
Yes, I will send that ASAP right now.
Okay.
Thank you so
All
much.
right. Thank you. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you for listening in to readmybook.net. We are the home of books, creators, and community thriving together. And light and love, everyone. Happy reading.